Good afternoon, and welcome to our very first session of the Straight Talk with the Coaches. My name is Andrew. I'm one of the Vitality coaches and personal trainer. And today I'm going to be joined with our mental health expert, Henri. So he's there.
Hello.
Hello. I'll give you a quick introduction in a second, but the main topic of today's subject is smoking. So do you want to give yourself a quick hello, Henri?
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Henri Sahar. I'm one of the Vitality coaches, as Andrew mentioned, and I specialize in mental health and well-being. So I've been working in this field for about 9 years now. Started working with athletes and sports people. I've done some lecturing at universities, and about 4 years ago started to work more with everyday people on everyday challenges, and that's what brings me here today. And I'm also an ex-smoker, so I smoked for about 12 years, started pretty early, on and off. And so, yeah, we're going to be talking about smoking. So, Andrew, back over to you.
And same as me. I used to be an ex-smoker as well. So with my background, I was literally, that kid at school that was overweight, did no exercise, and then discovered alcohol, discovered cigarettes, and I just lived such a bad lifestyle. So I've been there, done that, and got through. And I think the whole point of the session today is just to talk, frankly, about smoking, to lay everything on the table that sometimes it is harder than you think. It's not an easy journey to take when you want to give up smoking. But just hoping that maybe my story or your story, Henri, will help other people that are thinking, how do I make a start and stop smoking? Or is there any tips or advice that's worked for me? And just because it worked for me, it might not work for you. But if anything, it might give people some ideas on where to start or additional help. So so just got a quick question to you.
Yeah.
What made you stop smoking?
What made me stop, or what made me start? Okay,
Stop.
so well, I was going to ask you what made you start. So what made me stop, really, I was 26 and living in Vietnam, and I started singing in a covers band. And so really, and I think this is quite interesting, that it was looking at the bigger picture. And for me, where I was singing, I was like, right, okay, well, I know that smoking is not going to help me to help my voice, let's say. So for me, it was definitely, that was when I stopped the last time, which was, kind of a finite stop, was looking at the bigger picture. And then, yeah, essentially I just stopped overnight pretty much. But I stopped and started. So I started smoking when I was about 14 at school. And throughout that 12-year period, kind of smoked for a bit, stopped, smoked for a bit, stopped, smoked for a bit, stopped. And I always pick it up again. But yeah, when I was 26, that was for me the key thing. But yeah, for me, I was one of those people that was kind of able to just stop. And I know that you were like, yeah, you envy that a little bit. So when did you start?
I must point out actually as well, if anyone's got any questions, they can ask questions throughout this process. And if there's anything you want to ask either myself or Henri, then we're more than happy to give a few answers. What made me start? I was a late starter. See, I was my mum smoked and I was so against it growing up. I used to nag her, and then I started around about 21.
Wow.
And it was so stupid, but it was the way I was dealing with the loss of my dog. Ben was 16, I think he was. So he was a huge part. Was he 16? I can't remember, it doesn't matter. He was a huge part of my life and a best friend. And I just fell to pieces. I literally didn't know how to cope, and I just went off the rails. So I just drank a lot and picked up a cigarette, and it's so addictive. I can't believe how quickly I was a smoker overnight. So that was the scary part. But one thing I do envy as well is what you said just now. I was never a person that could just pick it up and put it away. I had friends that could literally go out clubbing or something like that, that would just buy a packet of cigarettes and then smoke 10 and then pop it away in a little drawer till the following weekend.
Pick them up
and
next
then
week. Yeah.
It was all or nothing for me.
So that really, and from a sort of, yeah, the way that I see that is your relationship with smoking. So people have a different relationship with smoking. So some people will be smoking every day, and they will, certainly have that kind of addiction, which is smoking every day. And certain people will have a different relationship with smoking and a different relationship with that. That's the same with anything really, that they're able to, it's part of going out, it's part of that experience. I've got a cousin who, when he comes to England, he smokes, but he doesn't smoke in Finland. And he sees it just as part of his holiday. It's all part of the enjoyment of the process, which is an interesting a different relationship to have with these kind of things. So, yeah.
And I think for me, when I did decide to give up, I went through such a huge, there were so much things that I needed to change. I did. So my journey, like I say, of giving up smoking was really hard. And because at the time, I thought I really enjoyed it. And I thought that I couldn't live without it. It was at the stage where smoking ruled me. And I remember there was a point where I was working, I was counting down, thinking, when can I have a cigarette break? When can I squeeze one in? And that was what I was thinking about day in, day out. So these little gaps where I can go for a cigarette. And to make it worse, I was a secret smoker. So so many of me, my friends, and even people that I lived with in the past, had no idea I was a smoker. So it literally controlled me on finding these little gaps on when I can have a cigarette. Is there going to be enough time that I can get rid of the smell?
Yeah, you mentioned that before. Yeah. So how would you get rid of the smell then?
Well, if I was, for example, when I lived in Bermuda, when I used to go to work, I used to smoke at work. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog. I used to smoke at work. It's the postman. And so when I used to get home, knowing I'd be half an hour before my housemates, I used to literally get in, have a shower, put the clothes in the washing machine and wash it. It ruled me. So
well, that's really interesting, because I think one of the key things about addiction that people don't really realize is the amount of thought process and the amount of behavior that is impacted by an addiction. So, for example, what you mentioned there about fitting in those cigarette, all right, when can I get a cigarette in? And that whole thought process of keeping the impression that you weren't a smoker, and all of those things that they just become our normal behavior, and we don't even think anything of it. And then, at some point, something changed for you. So what was the changing point? When did you go, I mean, did you just say, look, this is ridiculous, like I'm literally like running around trying to hide this? Like, I mean, what was the moment for you?
So long story short, from Bermuda I moved to Germany, and in Germany I found everyone smoked. So I gave myself a little bit of freedom, and the people that I ended up working with were smokers, so I kind of let it go a little bit.
Did you become not a secret smoker anymore? You became an overt smoker.
A more relaxed smoker. So when I realized, and I think in Bermuda as well, there wasn't a lot of people that smoked. So it was more of a case of, okay, I feel a bit ashamed, a bit embarrassed. So in Germany, it was more open. So it was it was 2012. And I remember it was the Olympics. Okay, this sounds really cheesy and cliche, but this is so true. I was stood on my balcony, Super Saturday. It was hot. It was a hot evening. And I'd arranged the TV that you can position. This is how lazy I was. I positioned the TV so that I could sit on my balcony, smoke and drink.
Nice.
And I remember it was the Super Saturday that Jessica Ennis and Mo Farah and Greg won all their golds. And it was that point then I was just like, what am I doing? I was so obsessed with the hype of the Olympics and the excitement. And I remember the commentator saying how young Jess Ennis was and what she'd achieved and the dedication. And I remember standing there thinking, I want to achieve something. I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a huge impact, huge turnaround point to me that I don't want to live this life anymore and I want to achieve something. And that led to me like leaving my job, moving back to England, which for me made it easier to stop smoking. So creating new habits and a new environment that I can just didn't associate smoking with. Okay, we've got a question. Do you miss smoking now?
Do you miss smoking now?
I forgot. I do forget I used to smoke. So I don't miss it. I remember the feeling of what smoking gives me, but I don't miss it. So, and I think if I look about what I've achieved in that gap, it's huge. And to even like destroy the fitness or knowing that if I start up again, I've just wasted all this effort and time. And I know for a fact that I've got an addictive personality that it would only take one cigarette, I think. And it is true that they say once a smoker, always a smoker, because I think, yeah, if someone was to force me to have one, then it wouldn't take long to be hooked again.
So it's interesting you say that, because I've had a slightly different experience of that. So at sort of weddings and things like that, when you would have, people would be smoking, I found that after I quit, I would have a cigarette and it would put me off again. I literally, after a few drinks, I'd be like, oh yeah, go on, I'll have a cigarette. And then actually it was a reminder actually how nasty it was, to be fair. So I don't know, like obviously I don't know your situation, but that was definitely my experience with that. I really love what you said about just sort of, I don't want to do this anymore. I think there comes a point where lots of people like try to stop and, use all different ways to help them to stop smoking. But fundamentally, like it has to, the penny kind of has to drop for people. Like you've got to get to that point where it's like, look, I don't really want this anymore. And that's it's not a difficult stage to get through to, but if you've been a smoker for a long time, that can be essentially what you're doing is you're trading what you know for the unknown. And the unknown is always scary. The unknown is always scary. So it's a lot easier to continue habits that you know rather than step into the unknown. So that's something I would say about that. Yeah.
And the biggest part for me was, and I think it's quite a common thing, is triggers and association. So I knew that, and again, I think only smokers can relate to me with this. There's an aftertaste when you eat or drink something with a cigarette, and the best way that I can describe it is like the sweet and salty flavor. So when you've got like peanut butter and jam sandwich, you've got that sweet and salty aftertaste. Popcorn, sweet soda popcorn. There's a taste and there's an aftertaste. And I think with smokers, you get that. So when you have that cup of tea, that coffee, whatever, it's nice. And then you have it with a cigarette, there's that aftertaste. Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, there's the combination. Like Johnny's asked that question there. Do you miss smoking now? Right. When I was in Vietnam, I had a balcony, 14th floor balcony. I have a cigarette and a cup of coffee sitting out on that balcony. I could see the whole of Hanoi. It was beautiful, right? And that combination is like, like I miss that like feeling of that. But you're right, like there is associations that we create. So it might be a drink and a cigarette, it might be a cigarette after food, and this is where it does become habitual. This is where it really does become habitual. So there's a question that's just come through, but tell me more about the associations that you mentioned.
So because again, with me having an addictive personality, I had routines. That's just the way I am. In order for me to give up smoking, I knew that I had to give up the associated things. So one of the first things I did was I gave up tea. I was a big tea drinker, and in replace of it, I never used to drink coffee. I love coffee now. So I never had that association of taste with coffee with a cigarette. So what I got rid of, which I loved, was my tea. I replaced with Earl Grey, which I love now, and Earl Grey tea and coffee. So that I wouldn't have an association with that. And I did that with certain foods as well. And I changed my routine of like first thing in the morning. I didn't back then. I used to catch the bus to work. I stopped walking a long distance to the bus stop. Instead, I cycled, chained my bike, so that I was distracted all the time.
Yeah.
And again, with the boredom part, it's when I had nothing to do. I bought a little handheld games machine, and basically I would only use that on the times that I would go for a cigarette. And when you get addicted to games, like I did the personality, I was like, oh man, I've only got 5 minutes to play this bit, and then I've got to put it down. So when I need a cigarette, I was like, game time. So I can pick it up, play my game, put it down. So there was so many things, and it was deeper than I ever thought it would be. I never thought, and this goes to show how much for me smoking controlled my life. So looking at what I needed to change for me, what helped me is a lot. It might not be that case for everyone, but I guess I was never a smoker that could just pick up and leave it for a week or two and come back to it. I remember being envious of those people because that was it. Once I was in or nothing. So
yeah, you make a really good point there with, well, there's a couple of things that I want to just tease out before we get on to, we had one question just come through, which we'll come back to because I think it's a great question. But you've got that association, and what I see a lot is, especially with drinkers as well, when people quit drinking, they'll then remove going to the pub. You know, obviously we can't go to the pub now, but remove socializing with friends who do those things, which I think that's one way to do it, and it's great if that's what you want to do. But then what you're also doing is you're restricting your enjoyment of those other things as well. So like you're restricting your, by cutting out tea completely, you've restricted your enjoyment of that thing. So and then what you've kind of done as well is what's an often common thing is to replace one addiction with another. So where you've and this is Russell Brand talks a lot about this in terms of his addiction and where he's been addicted to so many things. I think now he's addicted to like yoga and meditation, and you might say, okay, well that's better than hard drugs, but it's still that kind of psychological attachment, if you like, to essentially distracting yourself. But like you say, it's common to sort of have a cigarette while walking to the bus stop, walking, at the bus stop waiting. You have, these kind of associations are really helpful to pick out in terms of how you have a relationship with smoking or drinking or whatever it is. It's really helpful just to kind of notice, what's going on there. And then, like you just reminded me of like one time that I stopped smoking, I started juggling. So I got like the basics of juggling, but I did exactly the same thing. So every time I was, okay, I'm going to have a cigarette break. Instead of having a cigarette break, I'd go outside and I'd literally practice juggling for like 5 minutes. And so I was working at a school then, and it was like, maybe not the best thing to be going out and smoking cigarettes. So I would be juggling, and then everyone would be like, oh, wow, you're juggling. It's like, yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. But that really helped me as well. So I'm not saying that, to avoid that completely, because that can be really helpful as well. Should we go to that question? Like, how did smoking affect your fitness, or how did stopping smoking affect your fitness? Did you do everything together? You like stopped smoking and then got fit straight away, or what was the situation with that?
I remember going to the gym, and when I first got back to England, so I had this point, I knew I was going to stop, and I was in the process of stopping. And I remember going to the gym, and literally, as soon as I got out of the gym, hiding around the corner to the fire exit to have a cigarette. So, and I remember being on the treadmill thinking, seeing other people on the treadmill thinking, how are they doing this? I am absolutely exhausted, so easy. And then I became friends with someone that was at the gym, and he mentioned about possibly, why don't you do a running event? for charity. It might help you, so you've got something to look forward to. And I was like, I've never done anything like that. I thought, well, this goes into something that I want to achieve. I want to be able to say I've done something, and it will give me something to focus on. So I then signed up to this race, never ran 10K for my life. And I used that as a proper focal point where I signed up to it now, I have to do it. It's charity, I'm asking for donations, I have to do it. I can't smoke, I've got to do this. So
nice.
With that really helped me. And do you know what? As soon as I finished that race, I was like, where's the next one? I need to have another race. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And this person, who is actually probably my best friend now, it made me realize that actually fitness can be fun. Don't look about what you achieve. And again, even though I do a lot of running, sometimes when I'm doing a race, I'm thinking, I hate this. But that feel-good factor afterwards is just amazing. It's the afterwards. It's sometimes you think back on what you've achieved. And then since then, that 10K, which I did, 6 years ago, possibly, I've done 20 marathons since. I've done so many things that I would never, ever thought that I would do. And yeah, I love the gym now. I love doing workouts, and and it's just improvement. I couldn't go back to that life because I enjoy this life so much. And seeing old school friends saying to me, I can't believe how different you are. Because I was overweight. I did no activities at all. So yeah, definitely at my fittest now than I've ever been.
I remember quitting when I was about probably 18, 19, and I used to play football every week. And it only took, I think, it was another okay, I'm going to stop. And I really noticed the difference in my cardiovascular fitness. But it didn't take long. It took like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. I was like, wow, actually, I can run faster and harder than before. And all I'd done was quit smoking. I'd not changed anything else. So I think that's a really key thing as well. But then again, go on.
I actually want to quickly just say, when my mum gave up smoking, she is not a runner at all. One thing that she noticed is that her walking was just improved so much. She didn't get out of breath. She was walking, and because she felt good, she went out for more walks at the time.
Exactly, yeah.
And I remember that one time she jogged up this hill because she said, I've not jogged up a hill for like 20 years. And she felt amazing. And it's just little things, those little things you think, wow, I couldn't do this before. And those can be infectious, those little achievements.
Oh, absolutely. Well, also those choices where you start to make healthy choices, then you're kind of like, oh, I can walk a bit further now. I could probably walk a bit faster. And then you start thinking, well, hold on a minute. What about my diet? Like, do I need to have that extra? Do I need to have that extra one? And so we often, as human beings, we do things that are easy. And of course, the things that are harder, like exercising, like, breaking bad habits, that kind of thing, those things tend to, go to the back of the queue of our priorities. And it is hard. Like, running is not, I've started running, with lockdown, and I don't enjoy it one bit. But as you said, like, after it, I know that I've done something good for my body. I know that I've smoked and drunk my whole life pretty much. And so actually doing something which is good for my body, I think that's kind of a good thing, because I wake up every morning and my body never lets me down. Like, it always is like, oh yeah, morning. Yeah. What do you want to do today? Do you know what I mean? Like we kind of got to look after it. We've only got one chance at this. So
exactly.
Yeah, it's something that certainly for me, I've thought about a little bit more. So.
And then Nick, say you don't have to, when there could be people out there that don't want to run or anything like that, but it's just the little things, your skin and the smells just get better. And this isn't a preach at all. You also give up.
Yeah, but also cutting down is okay. This is the thing. Cutting down is okay. People think it's like all or nothing. Like, oh, I have to quit, or I have to just stop smoking, and then, like you've done, like forever, that's it. Like, it doesn't have to be as finite as that. It's like, it can be, you know, if you're smoking 20, can you just cut a few down? If you're smoking 10, can you cut a few down? And that is small steps. You know, we always recommend, especially when you're, you know, getting into exercise or getting into any kind of new routine, making a change. Small steps are always steps in the right direction. So even cutting down is a really, really great start. And, you know, you might not want to quit even, you know, and that's okay too. Like, you know, it's your life and you get to do with it what you like. But even just cutting down a little bit can be really helpful. So
small steps lead to big places. So,
yeah,
and it is the small steps that count big time.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, there is other things that people can do to help. So did you try like patches or anything like that? Did that work? No,
did not appeal to me one bit. Did not appeal to me one bit. I didn't. For me, it was like, I'm gonna stop, and then I stopped, and that was it. Like,
gosh.
Yeah, like I started when I was like 14 and at school and wanted to be in the cool kid, what I thought was the cool kids, right? And we used to go down and there was like a little area where we all used to congregate, and occasionally you'd get teachers come down there and everyone would run away, and it was all just like, oh, Mr. Field's coming, Mr. Field's coming. Oh, no, throw your cigarettes away. And then it would be like, oh, okay, yeah, we're just hanging out here, sir. Like, you know, it was so silly. It was so silly. But yeah, like for me, that didn't even appeal to me. Did you try those things?
Do you know what? I think vaping came out just as I was stopping smoking, so I don't really know. I think I tried like an apple flavor one, and it felt weird. So I don't know much about vaping. I tried a patch that didn't really do anything for me, and I tried the chewing gum. That's an experience as well. But again, I know that some people
do get help. Exactly.
And we are all different, and it's best to try different things. I try different things. Some things work, some things different. But don't feel like to give up if one thing doesn't work, because we are not all the same. We're not programmed the same. So if there's one thing that doesn't work, try something else. And the main thing is, don't beat yourself up. Do not beat yourself up, because you're in that right frame of mind that you want to quit. So you're on the right path. But
good to me.
I mean, there is, like I say, if people want to jump onto the member zone, there's other ways that if you've got Vitality with us plan, there's other ways that they can. There's help for you available, basically.
Tell us about that. Tell us more about the help that's available.
There is, I think we are in, we've got My Quit Plan, and which again, I think we're going to put into a link on here so that you can actually have a look around. And there's also Quick Genius, which is app-based. I think we're running like a trial. There's 700 places for free rather than paying, I think it's nearly £200 for the year. So
fantastic.
It's an app-based program that wasn't available to me when I was. So again, that will work for some people. Hopefully, it'll work for all. And we currently got on our form with Alan Carr. So he does the quit smoking seminars, which obviously is streaming or online right now. Again, that's normally £300, but if you're a Vitality member, give it a go. Have a read about it, and then. Fingers crossed, even if you've just taken some inspiration or a little few tips from us today, hopefully that's given you a little bit of thought, and maybe try something that you haven't tried before.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Thanks for having me, Andrew.
No, thank you very much. And thank you for everyone who's joining in. I'm going to be jumping onto Facebook Live now on our members Vitality page, just to answer any more questions. So if you do have any questions, jump on there. I'll only be 5-10 minutes on there, but I'm there if you want to ask me anything.
Brilliant. Take care. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Henry. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.